welcome to week 3 of Aloha 25 July. This week we are painting a hummingbird, and I have prepared one, this guy here, using just two colors, Phtalo turquoise and opera pink. There's also a little bit of black in here, but I honestly realized it's not even necessary. You can mix really dark hues with just using these two colors. All right, I'm going to turn the camera around. Oh, and I also wanted to mention there is something a little bit new about this video today. I am using a microphone for the first time in a live stream, so I don't even know if it makes a difference, but let me know if you notice a difference, and especially if it's not good. If the sound quality is not good, please let me know and I'll just turn it off and we'll continue as always. But I just thought I'll try it and see how it works. I'm going to turn around the camera and have a look at the chat to see if you guys can hear me. All right. Okay, here we go. As you can see, I've set up my iPad as well, so I can keep an eye on the chat. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm just looking over at the chat. Oh, hi, Sylvie. Rosie. Hi, Steph. Hi, Mom. Oh, I miss you, Mom. Servus, Katja. Hi, Lea. Hi, Megan. Hi, Mishi. Okay, so the sound is different. Oh, good. I hope it's different in a good way. Yeah, okay. So let me first talk a little bit about the supplies because we have so few today. I will be using, as I mentioned in the introduction, just two colors, opera pink and Phtalo turquoise. If you use Aloha watercolors, my handmade watercolors, the names of the paints are opera pink and Jade vine. And I may be using a little bit of black ochre. This one here is lava. I also have a ceramic palette because we're going to do some color mixing first so that we can find out what colors and hues we can mix from this two colors. This is a little preview. I made the original painting in a sketchbook that I would usually not recommend for watercolors. This is a Royal Tarlance Art Creations. This was kindly gifted to me by two friends who made this beautiful engraving in the front. But yeah, the paper is really thin and you can't use a lot of water. I honestly thought I would just be sketching a little bit, and then I liked it so much I decided, okay, this is gonna be the painting I will be using for today's tutorial. I'm just looking over at the chat again. Oh, Mom. Yeah. So my mom is here under the name Takako Saila, and she just said that she misses me too. She's been here with me in Hawaii for 5 weeks, and you know, it's when you have each other for 5 weeks and then all of a sudden you don't, then I don't know, you miss the other person even more, I think. Isn't that true? Okay, so I talked about the paints and the ceramic palette. I will be using a different sketchbook today. I do realize this is very difficult to get outside of Japan because this is a Japanese brand. It's Maruman Vifart, but let me tell you, even though I think it's beautiful, I personally find the paper is kind of difficult to deal with. So I don't really recommend it, which, you know, considering I have already filled it for over half, I just want to fill it, let me put it this way. And it's not so difficult that I can't deal with it, but I don't think I will purchase it again. Let me put it this way. So this is actually a series I have been making with Tanya, who also has an account here on YouTube, Miss Nice Day. And we are painting this in her Patreon channel. So I thought the design of my hummingbird is just a perfect fit for the design of the last few pages I made, considering that I used all these circles, and also the colors are very similar to the colors I will be using today. So this is a very smooth paper. It is watercolor paper, and they don't call it hot press, they call it natural surface, but definitely more on the hot press side, more smooth. So I would encourage you to also use a more smooth paper today for this illustration, because we do have some fine details here, and I'm also going to go over it in the end with colored pencils. And personally, I think the more rough your paper is, the more the texture of the color pencil shows up. And that's a matter of taste, of course, but if you prefer everything to be a bit more smooth and blend better, then I'd recommend you use paper with a smooth surface. As for the brushes, I just pulled out 3 because I wasn't quite sure which ones to use. I made this painting with using just a size 6 round brush, but I also pulled out a size 8 round brush. This is by the Pigeon letters. Peggy sent this to me kindly because I will be teaching at the Summer Creative Live Retreat again this year on August 1st, and I received 2 brushes. So number 8 round brush, and then I have a size 6 and a size 4 round brush as well. Let's take off the cap. I will announce more about the Summer Creative Live Retreat shortly in my newsletter, so I'm not gonna go into it too much today. Just maybe you can write down the date, and we're gonna paint loose watercolor flower lei, Hawaiian style. So if you're interested in that, save the date already. Alrighty, okay. So what's going on in the chat? Hi, Leah. Oh, yeah, thank you. Hi, Nina. Yeah, I think, Nina, you said that you got to know me through Summer Creative Retreat, I believe. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, it is such an incredible festival. It's 1 week of different types of art instructions all day, every day, and it's free, so it's just crazy good, really. And I think it's the year 4 that I am teaching there, I believe. Yeah, so I absolutely love it. Ah, Tracy, hello. Tracy Arctic Turn. She's currently at the vet with her 2 Siamese cats, so I'm surprised she can make it here. Are you in the waiting room right now with 2 meowing cats? Okay, I'm gonna move this over to the left-hand side and get my sketchbook ready here. Okay, so I also forgot to mention that I'm using a regular pencil today for the sketch. Always feel free to use a water-soluble color pencil, you know, so you can work in everything later on, but today I'm just gonna use a regular pencil. Tracy says, yes, they are complaining. I know. I took my mother-in-law's cat to the vet, or, you know, my husband and I did, and oh my gosh, you'd think that he got abducted and then, you know, mistreated in the car, and he was shouting. Fortunately, the drive was only 10 minutes, but oh my goodness. So, okay, let us start with something that I forgot to mention, which is just something round that you can use to create the round sphere, and I would encourage you to start with this shape because then you can fit your hummingbird inside it comfortably. It's a bit more tricky if you draw your bird first and then you have to find something that's round. So we have the circle. It's quite big for the size of this page, so if you have different options, sorry about that, I just had this silly motorcycle go by. So loud. Okay, let me just, I'm gonna zoom out a little bit, okay, so you can see everything. And this is just the corner of my iPad, so don't get distracted by that. All right, so we have our circle. And then within the circle, if you look at the hummingbird, you can kind of see a triangle shape from the beak to the back of, to the center of the back, and then to the tips of the wings. So very gently, very lightly, try and get those points in. So this is the tip of the beak, and then just draw a straight line down here. Another one down here, and then connect those two. The beak of this particular hummingbird is so much longer than you think. So I'd suggest rather make it longer than you think it is, because then you can still erase some of it later on. I think it really looks better if it's even a bit too long rather than too short. Then an elliptic shape for the head. And then from the back of the head around here, just draw a curved line connecting this point with the corner of this triangle, and then you'll have the top wing. Then from this point, go down another slightly curved shape. And in here, we're going to fit the feathers. This will be done by very loose watercolor strokes. And then the definition will come later once the first layer is dry, and we'll draw in a few feathers. Now for the back part, as you can see, the back is curved, so we're not going to follow this line all the way back to here, but instead we're just going to draw another curved line. Close the shape here like this, and then you can really be very creative with the tail, even though I actually used 2 or 3 reference photos to create this piece. It's not just one photo. And there are hummingbirds out there that have very long, incredible tail feathers, like, you know, like something like this. So please feel free to change the look of the tail feather if you like, or you can also just do something that resembles my original painting here, just a shorter tail. But as always, with my tutorials, you can do different things, you can change things. You can also go more into detail with your illustration if you like, but for me, this is enough. I can fill it out with watercolors, just having this very basic skeleton of a sketch. And now I'm going to erase some of the lines that I drew just so that it's not too tricky to remove them later once we have the watercolor on the paper. And as I say, probably every single time in my live stream, once you paint watercolor over pencil, you can't erase the pencil anymore. So always make sure you erase as much as you want gone. And then of course, it can also be part of your style if you leave some of the pencil marks. Hello, Carrie. Carrie almost forgot about the live session. Oh my gosh. I better tell you that next week there will be another live session. So you can already start remembering it. Okay, so next let's start color mixing. I'm gonna put this to the side for a second. Okay, so let's see. We have opera pink and phthalo turquoise. So let's, oh, that's the tea. No, no, no. No, no dipping in the brush in the tea. Let's put it far away. Okay, this is the water. Oh, because this is a brand new brush, I have to soften it up first. Okay, just dipping it in water, pushing it gently onto my ceramic palette, and it's ready to go. Okay, so over in the chat, Rosie says, I thought I had hummingbirds in my garden, but they're pigeon tails. Really? In Germany? Oh, not much bigger than a hornet. They're characterized by their buzzing and their long proboscis. Huh, so this is totally new to me. I didn't even know we had anything resembling hummingbirds. Not hummingbirds, but even something that looks similar, like a hummingbird in Germany. Okay, I'm dipping my brush into Phtalo turquoise. Just going to use the back side of this. Okay, this is Phtalo turquoise. It's a very transparent pigment, super good for mixing. Next up, opera pink. It's also very transparent, has also high staining power, so it will just sink into the paper and the paper fibers right away, and it's almost impossible to lift it to get it off the paper again. Taubenschwänzchen. Okay, so Katja knows about those birds too. And then Rosie says, also known as hummingbird hawk moths. Oh wait, I've heard of those. Somehow this sounds familiar. Ooh. Ooh, I gotta look that up later. Rosie says she made a video. Did you post it on Instagram, Rosie? Or did you post it? Gotta have a little look. And Sylvie says they are butterflies, not butterflies, moths, or in that realm, so not birds, and occur in southern Germany. Fascinating. I just have to take a look later on. Okay, then grab some of your Phtalo turquoise, some of your opera pink, and look at that. We have this beautiful purple. I remember the first time I mixed Phtalo turquoise and pink. I was so surprised to get this vibrant purple, because I think in my mind I still consider Phtalo turquoise to be more of a green than a blue. So yeah, I guess I was just surprised that this would make for such a vibrant purple. I'm adding more Phtalo turquoise to my mix. Just trying to use more pigment so that my swatch gets a bit brighter and stronger. This one is very faint. Just grabbing some opera pink as well. And look what a nice strong purple. Oh, it's so beautiful. Add a little more of the Phtalo turquoise and the color will get darker. You can go almost to an dark indigo here. And that's why I said you don't really necessarily need to use black, because you can create very dark hues. Look at that. It's such a beautiful, like a dark denim.
But then of course, if you want to be quick about it, you can just add a little bit of black and instantly darken the color while retaining the blue value as well. So this is not value, the blue undertone. Okay, so just a little bit of mixing so we can get an overview of what colors we can use for our bird today. I'm going to put the palette to the side. Okay. So I don't think I've ever really seen those Taubenschwänzchen, hummingbird hawk moths, ever in real life. I think I've only seen them on photos or videos. Okay, might be something to paint in the future. Okay, I have my sketchbook back here, and I do realize we didn't draw in the flower on the left hand side, so let me just open up the sketchbook because I think we're going to go over to the other side. I'm going to erase the circle where the flower will go, and I did the original one completely freehand, but if you like, you can just maybe draw in the approximate position of your leaves and flowers, just so you know how much paper you'll use. Okay, here we go. And Carrie says they have hummingbird moths in North Carolina. They're fascinating. So just today, somebody asked me if we have hummingbirds in Hawaii, and the answer was no, we don't. And we don't have any moths that look like hummingbirds either. But I think that's maybe also the reason I've never seen a hummingbird. I would love to see one day. I really hope I get to see one. Okay, I'm gonna start with my opera pink, and remember, if you're using the same color that I am using, Alohawatercolors opera pink, that this is a very staining pigment, so you gotta work quick and not overthink it. We're gonna put opera pink down all the way except for the eye part. I do realize I did not draw in the eye, so if you are unsure where to put it around here and just leave an elliptic shape open. Gonna continue with the body, filling the body and the tail with a very light layer of opera pink. Here we go. Then pick up some more paint. And if you like, you can switch to a smaller brush. This is a size 8, but it has a very elastic, bristles that snap back easily, and it has a very good tip, especially because this is a brand new brush. But whatever you feel most comfortable with. For the wings, start at the tip, press down your brush, and then real quick move your brush towards the body. And you also lift up your brush at the same time. So press down and snap it towards the bird. And we'll do this for the whole wing, but our strokes will get a bit shorter. I'm not sure if you can see this, but the paint has already dried here. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, zooming in. You can see that the paint has already dried here. So I'm just going to go over my feathers one more time and try to blend everything a little more. Whenever you lift up your brush, you will pool your paint. So make sure you pool your paint in a place where you want it to be darker. So for example, here would be a good spot, right here, where the wing touches the body, to lift your brush and you'll automatically get a darker spot. Another good place would be to drag the paint over to the beak and then lift up here. Everywhere where you'll have a little shadow later on. Okay, and last but not least, hold your brush more upright and then drag it from the tip of the beak towards the head. Just draw one very faint line. Okay, I'm looking over to the chat. Oh, hello, Don. Don says they have different kinds of hummingbirds in Dallas. I see them in my backyard garden all the time. One more reason to go to Texas. So one of my best friends is from Texas, and they have hummingbirds. I mean, I gotta go. I've never been there. If you decided to maybe draw a really long tail, you can do the same thing I did with the beak and add a very faint first layer of pink to those wing feathers. So is there a season for hummingbirds in the sense that are they like more of a summer bird, or do they also come out in the winter, or do they only occur in the more warmer climates to start with? Because I think we had Texas and North Carolina, so that's all more warmer, right, throughout the year, I believe. Okay, Dawn says, yes, there is a migration season. Ooh, oh, where do they migrate to? And Dawn says, I just can't believe there's something I have here that Keiko doesn't have. It is true. I am truly blessed to live here. I mean, I do not dispute that at all, but no hummingbirds. Oh, Lisa says they show up in New Jersey in the spring. Oh my goodness. I am so intrigued now. I gotta look into that a little more. And Michaela says, we get them, I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name, by the way, but she says we get them all the way up into Washington State too. Ooh, I've been to Washington State. I didn't see no hummingbirds. Sabina says, if you plant the right flowers in your garden, they come visit daily during blooming time. Oh my gosh. Guys, you're distracting me so much. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I'm just picturing hummingbirds everywhere. I picked up some more opera pink, this time a more intense mix, so more pigment, less water. And for the flowers, I'm just painting them loose, freehand, setting down my brush firmly at first and then lifting up like this. And just adding a few strokes like that. Really don't overthink it. This is just a total like fantasy flower. Only thing you need to take care of is that it is somehow connected with the bird. It doesn't have to touch the bird, but you know the bird is going for the flower, so you want it to be very close to the bird and the bird's beak. Okay, I'm rinsing my brush. And now let's introduce the Phtalo turquoise. Depending on what paper you use today, if you're using 100% cotton paper, you might have to wait longer for everything to dry. So please be careful about this. Today here it's very warm and I'm using regular paper. So this is wood pulp watercolor paper, not cotton. So everything dries super fast. But just a little warning, if you use cotton paper and you might have to wait a bit before you continue. I picked up some Phtalo turquoise and I'm painting the leaves by gently starting my stroke, and then I push down all the way. See how the belly touches down on the paper, and then I lift up towards the end, and I do the same thing on the other side. Again, once you lift your brush, the paint will pool. If you don't like the pool up here, just drag your brush back and then lift it up where you want your paint to pool. So drag it back towards here. Okay, Mom says, meine süße Kiko-chan. She's so sweet. Vergangene 5 Wochen bei dir in Kona waren extrem glückliche und wunderbare Zeit. Aww. So she says she was extremely happy here spending time with me 5 weeks in Kona. And I know that it probably took her 10 minutes to write this. So that's why it only shows up now. You're so sweet, Mom. Yeah, I loved having you here. Next time you come, stay 2 or 3 months, okay? It's too short. Like, just stay all year, seriously. Like, I would not mind. Okay, you guys, we're done with the first layer, and yeah, check your paper and check your paint, how wet it is. This is looking pretty good. So I'd say before we go into the details of the bird, let's put in the background here. Initially, I painted only the hummingbird, and then I realized, okay, it's turquoise month, but everything looks pink. So I decided to add that circle shape in the background, just so that I have more of this month's color in my painting. Okay, so we're gonna do this in partitions. Gonna paint the background with some water first, and especially if you're using regular wood pulp paper, not cotton paper, you want to do this in sections like I'm doing here. So start with the first section, cover it in water. Then, depending on the intensity you'd like to achieve, you can add a very diluted mix of your turquoise, or you can just dip in to your pan directly and just, drop in the paint like this. Rinse your brush maybe and then add more water. Really be playful here. Also, you do not have to cover the whole background. You can leave out some white spaces. You can add more water drops, and then that'll create some very interesting effects. You can even tilt your paper for some interesting paint runs. Even maybe drop some paint in here and then tilt your paper. Yeah, just be very playful with this part. So I'm adding more water. It already contained a little bit of my pigment, but not to worry. And just go around your paper in sections, filling it up with water and pigment. You want to be a bit careful around the beak. Do not fill it all the way up because the beak will be a bit wider. So leave a little bit of a white space there. Although the beak will be pretty dark. So even, if you have already started to paint, don't fret. It's all gonna be fine because we can define the bird with darker colors. We can define the outline with darker colors. So we're actually gonna paint over and on top of the teal background. As always, just have fun during my live streams. Don't overthink it. You know, just paint, and if you make a mistake, you can usually fix it. Or even, you know, just change the way you look at it, and it might actually not be a mistake. It might just be, you know, who am I gonna quote now? Of course, you know, Bob Ross and the happy accident. So happy accidents, it's all good. Okay, here we go. I'm just now thinking how nice it would be to add a golden circle around the circle shape here. Or maybe silver. I think silver would be even better. Yeah, maybe I'll do that later, but everything has to dry first, of course. You can see I did not finish my circle very precisely here. Totally fine with this. It's really very loose today. Okay, this is enough. I'm gonna put my palette back here. Okay, so because this is extremely wet right now, I don't really want to go ahead and paint the details, even though, you know, if it weren't a live stream, I would probably go ahead and I'll fill in the second layer and the third layer. But I want to encourage you to wait until this is dry. And in my case, I'm going to use my hairdryer. And I'll be back in a second. Okay, hold on. Here it is. Good enough. You can see it's still wet in most parts. However, the thing is with drying very wet backgrounds like that is that as soon as you put your hairdryer on this wet watercolor layer, you'll get drying edges. You will have the pigment splatter into places that you might not want it. So if you use a hairdryer, just make sure you have big distance and maybe have it on a lower setting. Okay, let me rearrange things here so we have everything on screen. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm gonna switch to a slightly smaller brush. Let's grab the size 6 here. Okay, in the next step, we're gonna add a few layers of very diluted Phtalo turquoise, just for the shadows and a little bit more definition. Okay, I'm grabbing some Phtalo turquoise and putting it on my ceramic palette, adding some water. Okay, make sure you have a very diluted Phtalo turquoise here on your palette. And then we'll start with the underside of the head here. And with quick, short strokes, define the shadow here at the bottom of the head. Then we move on to the wings. and draw in one line at the bottom of every wing. So pretty much where two feathers overlap. We want to draw in a line, and they all converge towards this spot here. Okay, now let's mix some purple. I already have Phtalo turquoise and opera pink on my palette, so I can just grab some of this, mix it in with my pink. Let's grab some of this dark blue we mixed earlier to make it a bit darker. Michelle says she has to pay attention at work now. That's such a funny quote in itself. Bye, Michi. Back to work. Okay, we have a beautiful darker purple now. And just distribute it at the bottom of each wing. And also towards this focal point here. As you can see, I'm very loose. This is really just defining every feather, but not in a very precise way. I want this kind of fluttery movement of the wing to come through a little bit. I know for that it's actually too defined. I think if I wanted to paint a fluttery wing, I would probably just do something like this. But the quick nature of these little creatures, I think, should be reflected in the way we paint. So I love to incorporate very quick strokes. Just, you know, to get the energy of these birds across. All right. I switched from purple to some diluted Phtalo turquoise and put that in on top of my purple as well. And I'm going to go back to my purple and add a few more drops here at the bottom of the bird's head. I'm going to add some more here where all the feathers come together. And now I'm going to start with the tail with a dark purple. Again, I'm painting the underside of the feather. And those long tail feathers. So this is the underside of the feathers where they overlap. In here, I did the same thing with those feathers here. So this is where the feathers overlap. Here, however, this is of course the top of the wing. And I made this darker because in one of the reference photos, I used the bird really had very dark spots towards the center of the body here. And then the wings look more brownish, you know, more lighter. Ooh, my iPad's showing me 10%, low battery. Let's see if we make it through this session. Okay, Dawn says, that's so gorgeous. That's just gorgeous watching this come together. Those colors are beautiful on the wings. Yeah, honestly, these two colors plus yellow, that's my favorite limited palette forever. It's also kind of like a primary palette. I mean, you could, you know, if this was more of a magenta, not like so much of a neon pink, but I call it my favorite alternate primary palette. And I have used that for years now. in a lot of my artwork. So just 3 colors, Phtalo turquoise, bright pink, and yellow, and it just works so well for me. All right, so once everything is more dry here, we can go back in and add some details for the feathers. And Mom says, of course, Keiko-chan, I promise that I will stay 2 months by your house in Hawaii. Yay! Oh, great. Okay. You said it here on YouTube. Now it's gonna be true. Let's grab some opera pink and some Phtalo turquoise. Mix it all up for a beautiful, more reddish purple this time. So if it's too dark or too blue, just add a little bit more pink and you'll get this nice reddish purple. Yeah, right, Dawn? You say, we will all hold you to those 2 months, Mama. Yes. So Taki, that means, die werden alle drauf gucken, ne? Dass du dann wirklich 2 Monate zu mir kommst. Okay, so I'm still using my size 6 round brush, but please feel free to grab a smaller round brush because now we're going to do some details here in the wings. Just some quick strokes at the tips of the wings. And then some half circles here. So you don't have to do this for the whole wing. I think my biggest tip on painting loose is to indicate something in one area and then automatically I think our brains kind of translated that to the whole wing. So you don't have to draw in every single feather for the whole wing. Just do it here in one part. And this, of course, is only true for loose painting. If you want to paint more realistically, then you would go in and paint in more details. All right, let's rinse the brush. Pick up some turquoise again. I'm moving on to the tail feathers, adding some green right next to the purple. Maybe even on top of the tail feathers here. A little bit of turquoise here where the body goes into the tail. I'm sorry, I'm switching so much between the colors right now. So I hope this is not too fast. I diluted my purple and now I'm adding a little bit here at the bottom of the belly. I do have 2 colored pencils, so once everything is a little bit more dry, I will go over everything and add some texture. If you don't want to use colored pencil, you can do all the work with watercolor as well. Just make sure it's really diluted. And then with some quick strokes, you can add some texture, some patterns to your bird. Like this. Very quick, very little strokes. They're hardly visible, but they will give your bird a little bit more texture and definition. I personally do, however, love to add another medium, but it's really a matter of taste. You can do the same thing here on the bird's head. Okay, Now we gotta really make sure things are dry here, where the beak is and the eye is, because that's what we're gonna draw in next. So, Phtalo turquoise, lots of pigment, little water. Pink, same thing, lots of pigment, just a little water. Pick up some more turquoise, let's make it really dark. Actually too much water. I'm rinsing my brush and then drying my brush before I pick up some more paint. Now it's a bit too blue. Okay. So a bit more pink. Okay, yeah, this is looking better. Before you set your hand down, make sure the paper is dry wherever you do set it down. So set down your hand, the palm of your hand, move your brush to an upright position, and let's paint the beak. If this is too stressful for you, you know, you can also change the whole look of the bird and maybe add colored pencil, and then you can draw in the beak with colored pencil as well. So whatever other medium you use, or you could do maybe a fine liner outline, then you can draw in those details with the other medium if that's easier for you. And I'm adding a little bit of definition here at the top of the head. Very, very tiny strokes. I try to not paint it in one line like I did the beak. That's now a very harsh line. It's a very defined part of the bird, which is good because this is actually where things happen. This is where the bird will eat. So we naturally will be drawn to this part because that's where the action is, right? Okay, last but not least, let's draw in the eye. For the eye, if you want to make it pop, you can add a little bit of black just so it stands out more, but make sure you don't add just pure black. Want to make sure you have it mixed with your two other colors. It just, I think, goes better with the overall painting if it's not pure black, but more of a very dark indigo. Again, if you feel unsure about this part, please feel free to use another medium. The way I draw the eye is an elliptic shape. Might want to zoom in for this one. Okay, let's do it. I hope this is a good angle. Just picking up a bit more paint. Okay, so you see I started with the bottom half of my eye. Fill it out a little more. The reason why I'm doing this so slowly is because I want to leave a highlight. Now I'm drawing the upper part of the eye, shaping everything. You always want to start with a large white space for the highlight because it's much easier to fill the space, to make the highlight smaller. So always think a little bigger when it comes to the white highlights. So now it's a bit too big, I'd say, but it's super easy to just add a little bit more of the dark color and make it a bit smaller. But see, it takes so little and it's so much smaller already. Naturally, if you mess up this part, just wait for everything to dry and then you can go back in with a white jelly roll pen or a little bit of white gouache and just set that highlight there. All right. So I looked at the eyes of hummingbirds, and interestingly enough, they are really quite big compared to the body size. That's why I painted the eye like that. I tend to not paint bird eyes too realistically. I kind of developed my own way or style of painting birds' eyes. So I do think, however, that birds are not only shaped, defined by their overall shape, but also through details, just like the eye, for example. So again, if you want to paint more realistically, it's very important to study certain details. And the eye is probably one of the most important ones in whatever you paint, either animals or people. Study the eyes and the way they sit and in the face and where they are located. Okay, we have finished the watercolor layer, and as I mentioned before, I will go in with some colored pencil now. However, as I also mentioned, feel free to add some more texture with just watercolor if you like, or maybe another medium if you want to try out something else. You know, as I said, you can also use some fine liner and draw some outlines. I have some very fancy ones here that I hardly use. I also only own 4 colors, I think, of these Caran Museum Aquarelle. They are just so expensive here in Hawaii, so I don't, and I like them, but I don't like them, I don't love them. But they were the perfect colors for today's motif. I need to get a new blade for this one. Hold on, I have better ones. Or maybe, you know, not worry about this, getting this sharp. Okay, the colors I'm using here is called, one is called blue turquoise, and this is anthraquinoid pink. Man, these words they come up with. I call it coral. Let's just stay simple with this one. Okay, let's start with the turquoise blue. This is almost like a darkish teal color if you ask me. I mean, you know, see? These are the colors. I'm sure you can find something similar, and it doesn't have to be fancy. However, if your painting is still wet, I really encourage you to use water-soluble colored pencils because the lead is very soft and it's not gonna rip your paper. Whereas with the regular color pencil, you might just end up ripping the paper when it's still wet. I'm fortifying my shadows here. Fortifying, I don't even know how I come up with this word. And then adding another line here at the bottom of the beak. So I am making that shadow stronger here, defining the beak a little more and adding another color to the purple. So I think a lot of hummingbirds have iridescent feathers, and there are some colors I think that pertain very well to create iridescent colors. And I think purple, pink, and indicate. So of course, just grab your shimmer watercolors and then, you know, you have that effect instantly. But if you want to paint with matte colors, I think one way to achieve it is to layer different colors on top of each other or very close to each other so that you have interesting overlapping effects. With quick strokes, I'm going to add a little bit more of this teal on top of the already dark part of the wing, trying to create a gradient here. So putting down more colored pencil here at the top and then slowly fading it into the watercolor here towards the middle, towards the center of the wing. Just adding a few quick strokes between the feathers. Okay, Dawn says, I think they're expensive on Mars as well. You mean these color pencils are expensive on Mars? I bet they are. Was this a Siri thing now, or did you say Mars on purpose? Either way, I think it's hilarious. Hey, this is expensive on Mars too, not just on Earth. I'm really enjoying today's chat. Thank you everyone for participating. It is, I mean, drawing live is fun, of course, but it wouldn't be anything if it weren't for you and for your comments and for your chat. I mean, that is really what makes it fun for me. Okay, let's move over to the wing, to the tail, and adding some of this teal to those spots where it's already dark. So I'm just making it a bit stronger here. All right. And then with my coral color, I just put a very light layer on top, pretty much on top of the rest of the bird. So I do realize that it changes the overall color of the bird too. However, I just love this slightly warmer hue on top of this purple. I mean, oh, it's so pretty. Look at the texture. So I think layering colored pencil on top of watercolor really does create a resemblance of small feathers or a feather texture. All right. Let's maybe add a little bit more shadow here. Now, I always like to step away a little bit, or maybe even just hold my painting away from me and just give it an overall look to see if the shadows and the lights are balanced, if the overall composition maybe needs a little fixing here and there. I think I'm happy with the bird, except for maybe a little bit more shadow down here. Again, very quick, very short strokes, just barely touching the paper and adding some shadow. I think the only question that remains is, should I add more definition to the flowers as well? You know, I could add some shadows down here, or I could just leave it. I could also go over with my coral colored pencil to kind of make the color of the flower more similar to the color of the bird. But that's really a matter of taste. I think you could totally leave this flower as is, or you could also add a little bit of shade. It's totally up to you. Just gonna demonstrate real quick what it would look like if we added a little bit of colored pencil shadows. So you can judge for yourself if you want to add that as well, or if you want to just leave everything as is. Okay, here we go. I am so tempted to add something glittery now here. Sparkle, sparkle. I don't think I have my glitter paints here, do I? Hold on, I think I do. Just one moment. Oh, there they are. Okay. Ooh, yeah. Okay, what do you guys think? Just some plain old gold or silver? Or how about a colored, like some colorful shimmer? This is, oops, color shift Octopus from teal to pink. Leah says, yes, sparkles. Okay, let's do it. Okay, what do you think? Silver or pink teal? Or both, maybe? Okay, let's start with this is Octopus, by the way, if you want to use Aloha watercolors. And Leah says both. All right, will do. So let's add some sparkles. I'd say here on top of the wings. I don't want to overdo it, so I'm really only going to do kind of like a very light layer here. Okay. Oh, Sylvie says, I'm so happy to be here with all again. Yeah, same here. Such a nice evening painting. Sylvie's in Germany, so over there it's already 10 p.m. Thank you so much for joining, you guys. I know it's late, so I appreciate it even more. Okay, can you see the shimmer? It's very subtle, but yeah, I think it does add a very nice touch to the hummingbird. Now let's go for some silver. This is Mahina, by the way. Mahina means moon in Hawaiian, and it is a mix of silver and gold. If you don't have a shimmer watercolor, you can just use a gold or silver jelly roll pen. All right, I think I'm gonna do that circle shape here. I think I've mentioned this in previous classes. In order to paint circles, feel free to just do it in smaller strokes. You know, you don't have to feel like you have to be the perfect Japanese calligrapher and just do a perfect circle in one stroke. Because let's face it, who can? Certainly not me. And of course, turn your paper so the angle is comfortable for you. Okay, going all around. Oh yeah, I like that. Oh, that's really good. Oh, oh man, yeah. Isn't it interesting what a difference just a little thing like that can make? That's so pretty. Now I feel like I have to add some shimmer to my quokka too. Okay, back to the hummingbird. Yeah, love it. This is good. Dawn says I would drop some seahorse wet in the circle. Oh yeah, like as long as the paint is still wet, you could drop in some turquoise shimmer as well. Let's see if I have it here. Oh, this one, yeah. So of course my paint is already dry. very lightly re-wet your paper. Just be very gentle. You're hardly touching the paper with just some plain water. And then add some little shimmer. It's almost tone in tone, isn't it? You can barely see it. And I think that was Dawn's idea, to add something that is really actually not visible when you just look at the painting straight on, but once you move your paper, you shift to a different angle, you'll see a little bit of sparkle. Oh my gosh, now we're getting all sparkly, you guys. This one turned from using just 2 colors to using all the media plus shimmer. Thanks so much, guys. This is so fun. Okay, let me move it so you can see the shimmer. Okay, here we go. This was a great session. Thank you so much, everyone. I will see you again next week. I will host another live stream on Monday. It's going to be really interesting because it's going to be about painting crystals and gems, and I have to admit that's new to me. So I will try and paint a bunch of crystals and gems this week, and hopefully I can present you something next week. If not, we're just going to do a very spontaneous, loose, let's try and paint crystals and gems session next week. That might be interesting too, right? Okay, so next Monday. And again, I mentioned it in the beginning of the stream, but on August 1st, I will also be teaching live with Peggy at the Summer Creative Retreat. But I will send out a newsletter with all the information soon. If you haven't subscribed to my newsletter yet, I will leave a link down below in the description. And as always, I would super appreciate it if you leave me a thumbs up on this video, or if you're so inclined, even maybe a comment under the video. All right, you guys, I wish you happy creating. I wish you a wonderful week, and I'll see you again next week. Aloha. Bye.